Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is currently Independence Day, Monday, July 4th at 8:30 a.m. I am currently running westbound on I-24 through Lyon County, Kentucky. I stayed last night at the Pilot in Oak Grove, Kentucky, and man, it was packed. I got there at 5:30 or so. I just felt like stopping a little early because I really wanted a shower and I was just kind of done for the day. And they had lots of pay parking left, but wasn't much for free parking. And I actually managed to find a spot that was really close. And there ended up being two spots. And another truck backed in next to me as soon as I backed in, and we chatted just for a second about being surprised that we found two free spots so close to the dang building. But in any case, I mean, had I not been able to find a good free spot or any free spot, I would have taken the one of the pay spots. I am not afraid to, pay for parking. There was at least one, maybe two end spots. Those are the spots I actually try to stay away from because a lot of, you tend to get more traffic around the ends turning and people just cutting their turns too narrow, not taking them wide enough and getting real close or even damaging trucks. I try to stay about 2 spaces away from the ends. Some people, will tell you to don't park in the last 3 spaces. But I'll park in, like I said, I try to make it 2 spaces away from the end. But man, I tell you what, I don't stay at the Pilots much. I typically try to stay at like TA and Petro because that's where I get all my fuel. And because I want to keep up my points and keep up my free shower credits and all that. But man, it's that Pilots, man, they got the last 2 I've stayed in was really good, man. And the showers, 10 out of 10, man, on the showers. They're super clean and they have awesome water pressure and plenty of water coming out of the heads, man. I mean, those showers are, like I said, 10 out of 10. The last 2 Pilots I've stayed at anyway. And I'm actually on kind of a shower swapping network, I guess. I got a friend of mine who he gets all his fuel at Love's, and he gets all unlimited showers because he fuels at Love's a lot. And we'll trade, like showers every now and then. Like if I have to stay at a Love's, I can use his shower credits, and if he stays at a TA or Petro, he uses my shower credits. And I actually am also doing this with a friend of his. I've never met him, but he's a truck driver out of California, and he does he gets his fuel at Pilot and Flying J. And he sent me a picture of his card and told me to grab a shower anytime I need, and I told him the same thing for me, and just to grab a shower off of my TA and Petro, especially if it's at the end of the week or a weekend, because I typically am not working on the end of the weeks or the weekends. I'm usually home on Fridays. But this load I got right now, it's a load of train motors that I picked up down in Waycross, Georgia. At there's a huge CSX rail yard down there, and I guess it's the biggest rail yard in Georgia. And I don't know much about trains or anything, but these motors look like they go underneath the locomotive, and they have train wheels on them, and they're electric motors, and they probably help keep the trains moving when they need electric power for something. I don't know. But in any case, that's what they look like. They just look like a motor with an axle going through them with train wheels on each end of it, or each side of it. But man, I got there at the train yard, and I stopped at a place that I thought was an office, and it was right at the beginning of their property. And I go in and find out it's a break room. So, I had to use the restroom, so I was like, I'm going to use the restroom real quick. And they didn't seem to mind. There wasn't anybody in there either. And I felt a little odd about it because, I'm a stranger in somebody else's place, in a place that I really shouldn't be hanging out in. But in any case, as I was walking out, the guy come walking in, and I just kind of explained my situation and told him I was taking advantage of the restroom because I thought this was an office, and I saw that it was a break room, and then I had to really use the restroom and really needed to take advantage of that. And he didn't mind, and then he gave me some directions on where to go. His directions were, to take the highway, go to the tunnel, wait for my green light, go through the tunnel, and then make a left over the railroad tracks, and then another left, and I'll see where they load the big trucks. Well, I missed it by a couple hundred yards. I kept driving by the shop because I didn't know exactly where I needed to be. And I assumed I was going to get loaded inside since this was a tarp load. And the shop that I drove past was the locomotive shop. And I kept going to the next shop. And then that's when I learned that it was actually the locomotive shop. So I had to kind of work my way back around. I kind of had to go out on the exit the property and then leave, and then turn around and then kind of come back in. But I got it. But then I sat there for like 2 hours, and I pulled up and I asked them. I went inside and checked in. They said, "Hey, we'll have a forklift driver come out to you pretty soon." I said, "Okay." So I go out and I sit in my truck, and a fork truck driver comes by and he talks to me and he takes a picture of my Raycon on my phone because he's not real sure what I'm supposed to pick up, and I pointed to what I believe were the train motors that I was picking up and said, "Hey, am I getting those?" Because they were on pallets, and my load confirmation said I was getting 3 pallets. And he said no, and then took off. Well, 2 hours later, he comes to load the 3 train motors that was sitting right there next to my truck. I don't know. I sat there for 2 hours, and I wish they would have just loaded. And I'm sure what happened was, I'm sure the paperwork wasn't ready, so they went in to wait for the paperwork to get ready, and then came out and loaded me. I really wish they would have said, "Okay, yeah, these are what you're getting. Load me," and then I get secured and strapped while they do the paperwork, because it takes me a while to get tarped to secure these. I just put a strap over each hub, because each motor has a hub on each end of it, and it's pretty wide, by about 6 inches wide or so. We've got plenty of gripping area for the straps, and then I put a chain over the middle of the body. It actually has an anchor point for me to push the chain through, but the way the anchor point was, I just draped my chain over the whole thing, over the whole motor. I think I could get a better securement that way, and I was told that's the way a lot of drivers secure those loads. But anyway, so then it took me a while to tarp, because it always takes me a while to tarp, because I don't like tarping. But yeah, I wish I would have been able to do all that work while they did the paperwork instead of waiting for the paperwork to get done before they loaded me. But in any case, I got on the road and stayed in Oak Grove, Kentucky last night, and headed to Kansas City with them. They are getting some kind of repairs done to them. and I'm hoping to be able to drop those suckers off tomorrow morning. I know the broker that I worked with on this had told me he was going to set me an appointment. My camera keeps falling. Told me he was going to set an appointment for me, but when I talked to him last, I forgot to ask about my appointment time, and he didn't mention it. He just called to check to see if I was getting loaded, and I told him, I said, yeah, they're getting me loaded right now, and then I'll be securing and tarping. And that was already kind of late. Like, it was rolling up on about, probably about 4:30 or so, right 5 o'clock when they actually loaded me. But anyway, that's my load for today. I think today I want to talk to you guys about a case that I worked on with a home invasion, and this is another one of those cases that I dang, whole camera just anyway, got it all secured now. This is another one of those cases that I talked to that I made a video about on my last channel, but like I said, before somehow I deleted my channel. I'm pretty low tech, and basically I was just trying to make sure I was doing everything right. And I think what happened was I went to rename my channel because I thought maybe it was because my channel was actually I tried to name my channel the same thing as a company. I didn't realize that a company had this name, so I figured maybe that's where I messed up, and I just deleted everything. But anyway, so this home invasion case, man, I'm gonna tell you what, it's really interesting, and I hit the evidence jackpot on this case. I mean, it was just nuts. It was like the lottery of a photo lineup identification and DNA match. I mean, it was just crazy. So basically what happens is 2 or 3 guys, I don't remember if it was 2 guys in the house or 3 guys in the house and a getaway driver, but it was but I actually was able to identify one of the people, and of course, he didn't want to say anything about anybody else, so I was only able to identify one. But anyway, so 2 or 3 guys broke into a house in the middle of the night and woke a 16-year-old boy up at gunpoint and made him disarm the alarm. And then what they did was they were waiting on his dad to get home. His dad was a business owner, but he was also a suspected narcotics dealer on the side at the time. And I suspected, I mean, that's just, I don't know that anybody was ever able to confirm that he was a narcotics dealer, but he was suspected, I believe, even before this home invasion. But anyway, what they were doing is they're waiting on him to get home because he was at the casino, and their intention was to rob him, and I'm assuming of either money or drugs or both. That was a pretty common, that's pretty common in my city where, drug dealers are getting robbed by other drug dealers and other gang members. It just happens. But anyway, so the dad gets an alert from his alarm company that his front door alarm went off, and he knew that it was going to be bad because it's a front door reading. Typically when alarms go off, if it says front door reading, that could be a signal of a couple different things. 1, somebody kicking the door in, or 2, somebody forgetting to disarm the alarm when they come home. Well, this was in the middle of the night, so he's assuming the bad part of it, and he leaves the casino and hauls ass home. Well, he comes flying up into his driveway, comes barging into his house, and immediately starts fighting with one of the suspects, who happens to have a rifle. I think it was either an SKS or an AK-47, but it was some kind of a rifle. Could have also been an AR-15, but it was something similar to that. So he immediately starts wrestling with the suspect, and he ends up actually getting shot in the butt during the struggle, but he was able to get the rifle away from the suspect. So he ends up going to the hospital, and then enter me. This is when I get involved. So Dad flat out told me, and I've kind of mentioned this before about cooperation of shooting victims, but Dad flat out told me that the only reason he's cooperating was because his son was involved. I believe his son was about 15, 16 years old. And I mean, he let me know that. So I'm at the hospital, and what I would have done back then is I would have made sure officers secured the crime scene, and then they would basically guard it to make sure nobody goes in or out while I'm at the hospital talking to the dad. Well, I tell him, hey, I need to go in and process your house as a crime scene, and that's where he kind of draws the line. He's like, no, don't want you in my house. Don't want the police in my house. I told him, I said, look, I understand, but, if you want me to work the case, and I said, I can work the case. However, it'd be better if I have evidence. If I am able to collect evidence and build a case, then it'll make prosecution a whole lot easier. And I kind of explained all that to him, and he was still adamant he didn't want me in his house. And then I told him, I said, how about this? I said, because the rifle I think was still in the house. I wanted that. I wanted the shell casing, and I also wanted a soda pop bottle, I believe, because one of the suspects was drinking from a soda pop bottle while they waited for the dad to get home. And I told him, I said, I need those three things. And I said, I can limit my processing of the scene to your son's bedroom and the living room, and I think the kitchen. I said, I don't need to go anywhere else. I don't need to go in your bedroom. I don't need to go in the spare bedroom. I don't need to go downstairs if there's a basement or anything. I would have explained all that to him. Well, he agreed to that. He said, okay, you can do that. And but basically, he just didn't want me rifling through his house, because I'm assuming because he didn't want me to find whatever he had, which, I was there investigating the home invasion, and that's just what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to limit my scope of my search to the areas of the house that I needed. I didn't need to go in his bedroom, because nothing happened in his bedroom. Nothing happened in the spare bedroom. Nothing happened in the basement. Just basically the kitchen, the living room, and his son's bedroom, and probably the hallway in between. No closets, no nothing. No bathroom, no nothing. So anyway, I have some officers, some crime scene officers do that for me. They would have collected the gun, the shell casing, and the soda bottle. The crime scene officer at the time swapped the soda bottle and then threw the soda bottle away. I kind of wish he didn't do that. I didn't know that he did that until we had a court hearing about it, but it was fine. It was fine. I just would have rather we kept the soda bottle as actual evidence. But anyway, so the investigation went kind of cold pretty quick, or went pretty cold kind of quickly. The son didn't have any really good information about who it was. The descriptions were just pretty generic, and the only thing that I knew about the suspects at the time was they were black guys. That's it. They were just generic looking people. Nothing special about them. Well, in the days or weeks, maybe about 2 or 3 weeks following, the word on the street was that the suspect was known, and the dad came in, says, hey, the word on the street is that this is the guy that this is one of the guys that did the home invasion. And he gave a street name, and I forget what the street name was, but I took that street name and I was able to put it with a real person, and got him positively identified that way. So then I decided to make a lineup and show his son. So the way we make lineups back then was I had a computer program, and basically if my suspect is a 22-year-old black male, 5'10", 165 pounds, I would enter parameters in of I would want 18 to 23-year-old black males, 5'8" to 6 foot tall, 155 to 170 pounds. Just basically just a range of all of his descriptors, and then the program will spit out everybody that has those, that's within that range of description of the height and weight and all that, that has pictures, booking photos from jail, mug shots. So, and then I would go through, I would find my the subject of my investigation, my target of the investigation, and I would take his picture and drag it over to another screen. Well, then I would go to, on my computer, then I would go back to the pictures, and I'd pull out people that had similar characteristics to him. Well, such as things that I would look at would be skin tone, face shape, hairstyles, facial hair, or lack of facial hair, things like that. Obviously, I'm not, if my suspect has mustache and beard, I'm not going to put his one photo of a mustache and beard in there with 5 other people who are clean shaven. I'm just not going to do that. That's a good way to lose an identification. So anyway, so I go through and I just randomly pick photos that have similar characteristics that I want to put in the lineup. And so I did this, and the son comes in, and I think, I've done photo lineups in 2 different ways, and I think this one was where I just printed out 6 individual pictures, and basically what I do with my lineup is when I call somebody in for a lineup, I explain to them that I want to show them pictures of individuals, and I want them to tell me if they recognize anybody. And I have all the pictures face down, stacked in random order. Like I actually shuffle them, like a very common practice of mine. And to be honest with you, I could probably say I did it every time. Was I would shuffle the pictures because I would also have numbers on them. I would have number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. And I would basically just kind of pick a random number, make that as my suspect, and then write the other numbers on the other 5 pictures. And then I would shuffle them up. So the first picture he looks at might be 4, the next one might be 1, the next one after that might be 6. So you get the idea. So anyway, so I do all the explanation. I push the photos face down, stacked up, and out of order, or in shuffled in some kind of random order anyway, over to him. He takes them and flips them over one by one. Well, he gets to one of the photos, and he tells me, he says, if it's not this guy, it's somebody that looks just like him. Well, that was not the target of the investigation. And I've been in lots of situations where I've shown lots of photo lineups, and people will make wrong identifications. And they do that because they don't recognize their suspect from their case. So what they will do is they will basically shop for the best picture. Because in their mind, if I'm calling them in and showing them the lineup, that suspect has to be in that photo, or has to be in that photo lineup. Even though I will tell them, hey, the suspect may or may not be in this lineup. You just got to let me know whether or not you recognize somebody. Well, it's purely psychological, I'm sure, but, I just thought he went to, just like everybody else that does a misidentification, which happens quite a bit, just shot for the wrong photo. Or shot for the most correct looking photo. But anyway, so he says, hey, if it's not this guy, it's somebody that looks just like him. Well, I went ahead and thanked him for coming in and did what I needed to do at that point, and said, well, and basically planned that I would be investigating this the long way. Basically, the DNA evidence that was submitted to our laboratory, I would just have to wait on it to come back. And back then, man, the wait on DNA evidence was like, man, I mean, it was like 6, 8, 9 months, sometimes a year. They were just really, really backlogged, and it just took a long time to get the DNA. And what they do is they'll take the DNA sample, or they will take the sample that I submit to them, and so in this case, it was the swab of the mouth of the drink bottle, and so I submit the swab to them, and they will see if there's DNA on the swab. If there is, they will make sure that, or they will look to see if that DNA, if there's enough of that DNA to do any comparison. And then if there is, then they will put it in the DNA database, and the computer will spit out a match if there's a match within the database. And then I get notified, and then I track down the match, and I will get a sample of their known DNA, so that way there's no way to mistakenly identify somebody by DNA, because I will track them down and I will swab the insides of their cheek myself, and then I will put that swab in evidence, and then they will recompare that swab to the original DNA evidence and make sure that everything lines up perfectly. So basically, it's a double check. We get the initial confirmation that says, hey, that we believe this to be your suspect. You need to track this suspect down and get a known sample so we can make 100% sure. I'm not sure if this is a common practice or not, but that's just the way we handle it in our city, and it's a good practice, because like I said, there's not going to be a mistaken identification that way. So anyway, so the hit confirmation comes back eventually, or not the hit, well, the hit comes back eventually that says, hey, we believe the DNA that you submitted belongs to this guy. Well, guess what? It was the freaking guy he picked out of the lineup. This guy was a random ass picture of probably about 100 different people. Okay, I mean, just like, and I put him in the lineup as a filler photo. Like, I had no clue. Like, he was not a target of the investigation whatsoever at the time of the lineup. So when that DNA evidence came back that it was his, I was like, holy smokes. So somebody actually ended up tracking him down for me, I think, and got the known sample for me, and then it was confirmed that it was him. So we had like at least 2, maybe 3 different court hearings to discuss the fact that I put him in my lineup as a random ass filler photo, because I mean, just the odds of it was just amazing. And basically the defense attorney was trying to challenge that in multiple ways. Like, they were like the defense attorney was like, you mean to tell me that this person was not a subject of your investigation and that you just happened to put their photo in a lineup? Yep, that's exactly what happened. And then I went through the whole lineup process of how we make lineups and all that. And like I said, it was at least 2, and I think it ended up being 3 hearings for that, where they were trying to suppress that evidence. But in any case, the guy actually ended up, I think he took a plea on that case, and he was actually involved in another pretty bad case, like a few months before or right around the time he was identified. He was kind of he was charged with a separate crime. He was involved in a murder. Basically, his roommate did something, murdered somebody. I mean, it's a bad case. I mean, it truly. If I ever talked about that case, it would just. I mean, honestly, it would break your heart if you knew about this case. But in any case, he basically looked at his roommate right before his roommate committed this murder and was like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm not involved, and just left. Knowing what his roommate was going to do, and he actually was charged. And I think took a plea deal with that as kind of not an accessory, but basically they were like, "Hey, you should help this kid, and you put the kid in danger by not doing that." And they charged him, and he's now serving a pretty lengthy prison sentence. But in any case, sorry about that sidetrack. So, if any of y'all have like any law enforcement background or know anybody that has the law enforcement and investigations background, kind of run that by them about just randomly putting somebody in a photo lineup and having that person picked out of that photo lineup, and then having DNA come back to that person that was randomly put in your damn lineup. I mean, like I said, it was an evidence and an identification jackpot. But anyway, so that's my case for the day. If you like the video, like it, share it, or shoot me a comment, because I will talk to almost anyone about just about any suspect or subject. Until next time, have a good day.